So I recently made myself this small kitchen tool out of red oak. I meant for it to be a small spatula, but like one that could stir a pan without shoving everything out of it. Apparently what I made is called a spurtle, or pretty dang close to what some people call a spurtle. There are two different types, and today I'm going to make some new ones out of cherry that I'm going to be selling, probably in person and maybe on Etsy. Red oak is considered a more porous material and not as ideal for kitchenware, so I'm going to be using this guy as a template and then making some out of cherry, which is very, very good for kitchen utensils. So starting out by tracing this guy, nothing too complicated here. The start material is black cherry and it's a little under 3/8 inches thick. It's a scrap piece that I milled down to be flat. So today I'm going to cheat a little bit, or save time, whatever you want to call it, and rather than getting the angle of the spatula entirely with the sander, I'm going to get halfway there just by tilting my saw at 45 degrees and cutting that bevel first. So I did that on both sides to save me some time on each spatula. Alright, time to take this piece over to the bandsaw and cut these into individual spurtle spatulas. So just take your time, keep your hands away from the blade whenever possible. I have my blade guard up a little bit right now. I really prefer to see the line clearly and get a better cut. Like the blade guard kind of gets in the way visually and makes me do weird things. Can potentially make things unsafe if you keep looking around it and can't really see the piece properly. So that's why you see it lifted a little bit right now. Bandsaw to me is one of the safer tools that you're going to use in the shop. Just keep your fingers away from the blade. If you don't have a bandsaw, you can use a coping saw or another thin saw, maybe a keyhole saw, to achieve these cuts. You're going to need a good way of clamping the workpiece, so a solid vise or shave horse or something like that. Obviously the bandsaw is going to be the fastest bet here, but you can also use a jigsaw. Just be aware, you're probably going to get some tear out that you're going to have to overcome on the piece. Alright, they're looking a lot more like spatula spurtles now, a little more useful. So I wanted to take a minute and take some measurements here, show you where we're at. We're a little over 9.5 for the length on these, and then about 2 inches wide at the widest part on the bottom. Thickness, like I said, is about 3/8 inches, maybe more like 5/16. So if you're cool with sanding, we're going to jump over to the oscillating spindle sander. We're going to do that for 2 of these, and then the remaining one I'm actually going to knife down. I'm going to show you some carving and then what to do with your carved piece for finishing. So over at the oscillating spindle sander, I'm going to go ahead and do this first one in real time. It takes about 5-ish minutes of sanding, and this thing's ready for hand sanding and pretty close to done at that point, honestly. So jump ahead if you want. I'm going to let this one play out and then we'll go hyperspeed for the second one and then keep moving on. So for me, we're doing this in 3 steps. First step is to get all the mill marks off the faces of the piece. That's what I'm doing here. Just getting those planer marks off, making everything nice and smooth. Second step is going to be to get the taper that you want on the spatula, and that's going to be all about picking an angle and sticking with it. What's nice about this oscillating edge belt sander here from Wen is that you can just leave the piece stationary and it's not going to burn most of the time. Very nice to have if you're doing something like this, saves a lot of time. So I'm actually pushing into the piece quite a bit too, which is something you generally don't want to do on a sander that is stationary because it's going to burn the piece. Anyhow, third step is going to be to get the bandsaw marks off of the handle area and the sides, and we're also going to do some passes on the corners to set us up for the final hand sanding. This belt is 160 grit, so we're going to be able to jump right to the higher grits off of it. So after doing 2 out of 3 of these guys on the oscillating sander, that's what we have. 2 of them are really nice looking, 1 of them needs a little work. This third one that we're going to use the knife for has some really nice grain on it, so that's going to be a good one to not sand, I think. So you're going to see I use mostly pushing cuts on this. I do very shallow cuts toward the ends, just so I don't tear the handle ends out too much. It can be a challenge carving kiln-dried wood versus live wood, but just go slow, take your time, make safe choices. Something I like to do instead of flipping the piece constantly to adjust for the grain is I kind of flip the knife like this and then come up with a very shallow cut, almost like I'm turning the knife into a spoke shave. I really enjoy using the spoke shave, so the feel of this is pretty familiar to me, and it's good for that final shaping that you have to do with the knife to get the handle uniform. So that's what we got after about 20 minutes of carving. I could have put more finishing cuts on this, but I'm going to rely on the burnishing process, which I will show you soon, to smooth out some of those high spots and make this piece look even nicer off the knife. I hope you like this side by side with the sanded piece versus the knifed piece. You can see the differences in color. We'll see some cool differences later on when we do the finishing process. But for now, these 2 that we sanded, we're going to stick with that sanding process. We're going to take some 220 on a little sanding block that grabs your old sanding discs. I really like this thing. Maybe I'll throw a link to it in the description. So now we're going to just take those high spots and those marks left from the oscillating sander. We're going to blend those all together. It's going to be real easy with the 220 because we were on 160 on the belt. And then I like to hit with 400 as well to get even smoother finish and nicer grain. Alright, so this step is essential for any kind of cookware, anything that's going to get wet. We're raising the grain here by taking a little bit of water, getting the entire piece wet, and letting all of those wood fibers raise up as they dry. So after these pieces dry, we're going to come back and hit them with 220 and then 400 again. And you don't have to go too crazy. It's a lot faster the second time. So this process is called raising the grain. Highly recommend it for anything that you sand and are then going to use in the kitchen. Cutting boards included. Alright, after about half hour or so, these are completely dry. I'm taking 220, not on the sanding block this time, just so it contours to the piece a little better, makes contact with all those raised wood fibers, and knocks them down again. Basically, if you don't do that, the first time you use the kitchen utensils, they're going to be fuzzy afterwards after you wash them. So for finishing, we got a bunch of different finishes here. You want to use a blend of oil and wax if you can. That is my recommendation. I'm going to do a whole video on finishes later, but this tried and true in the middle, excellent stuff. Howard's Butcher Block Conditioner is wax and oil mixed together. That works pretty well too. The tried and true, I actually put it in a jar, put it in the microwave for 10 seconds or so. Got it real warm so it would penetrate into the piece even further. This is a mix of linseed oil and beeswax. Super easy to apply this stuff, just get it on the piece in excess, but not too much that the piece is like dripping wet. Just get a solid layer on there. Alright, these are looking great. Now what we need to do is just let them drink this finish up for an hour or so, and then we're going to buff them dry and let them cure up over the next day or so. So stick around and I'm going to show you what to do with that piece that we carved earlier. There's a process that we're going to go through first that's going to make this thing honestly not even need finish, but I'm going to put finish on anyway because I can't resist. Alright, so this one we are going to do a process called burnishing. You can use a burnishing tool or you can use a trusty smooth stone. This is a smooth stone that came in a bag of like pond stone. Works really, really well for this. So this is really hard to get on camera. I'll get you a closer look later so you can see what's going on. But basically you're trying to compress the wood fibers with something really, really smooth. And you're going to notice a huge difference if you do it right in the shine on the piece and especially the texture. So see the shine that we just got on that? It didn't take long at all. Now look at the back side. And you're going to see it's much duller because we didn't burnish that side. So not burnished on that side, burnished on this side. So we got the handle looking pretty good now. I got to burnish the top of this sucker, and then I will show you a close-up of what this looks like. And what's cool is if you get this right and you get enough pressure and you really smash those pores closed, almost the opposite of sanding, by the way. You don't actually need finish. See how it looks finished already? This piece is only burnished. A lot of people that do burnish their pieces do not ever sand, and they don't even bother with the finish. Like I said, I can't resist, so I'm going to throw some oil and beeswax on this one too. I love the grain on this last one. There you have it, the carved piece and the two sanded pieces. You can see a difference visually. There's more of a gloss on the piece that was carved. That's mostly due to the burnishing. Last thing to do is just come back after these guys have drank that finish for an hour or so and buff them dry with a clean lint-free cloth. I like to use a microfiber cloth if I have one. And over the next 24 hours, these are going to harden up, that beeswax is going to tack up, and if you want, you can burnish them again and get them even shinier. Or you can leave them satin. Either way, they are much better protected against water than if you used an oil alone, thanks to that beeswax. I hope you liked this video. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Ever heard of a spurtle before this? I don't know, that was a fun word to learn. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all for the support. Peace.